Hey, it's Adrian. Today I'm taking a look at the Dell U4323QE monitor, and this is a 4K 43-inch monitor that has KVM. You can connect up to 4 different devices, and there's a ton of ports on here. It also has 90-watt charging for laptops, and it goes for about $1,300 US, but right now it's on sale for about $1,000 US. If you've been thinking of upgrading your monitor, stick around. I'm going to test the overall performance and some of the unique features of this monitor, so let's get started. Here's a metal base for the stand, and this is the monitor arm. So both of these together come in at around 10 pounds. If we look at the mounting area, so there's 4 screws here, and this is for the 100 by 100 millimeter VESA mounting. And then we have larger screws here for the 200 by 200 millimeters. Installing the monitor base is really simple. You're just gonna match these 2 black extensions right with these 2 ports right there. The last step is to install this huge metal base into the monitor arm, and that's really easy to do. If you look at the back side of it, there's a screw that you could just twist, so you don't need any tools. So I'm just gonna line that up and rotate this until it can't go anymore. In the package, we have a DisplayPort cable, HDMI cable, Type-C to Type-C cable, Type-C to Type-A cable, power cable, and some mounting hardware if you're going to VESA mount it. The monitor has a really minimalist type of design. From the front, you can only see the Dell logo in the center of it. And with the stand, it comes in at around 41 pounds or 18.5 kilograms. Without the stand, if you wall mount it, then it comes in at around 30 pounds or 13.6 kilograms. While the monitor has a really heavy base or stand coming in around 10 or 11 pounds, you can see that if I nudge the display, there is significant wobble, and that's to be expected with a monitor that weighs around 30 pounds just on its own. Port selection is quite plentiful on this monitor, so we have a monitor lock, power port, we have HDMI 1, HDMI 2 port, we have a display 1 and DisplayPort 2. We also have a USB Type-C upstream port, and this is the one that you'll use for the 90 watts charging for your laptop or device. We also have a audio out. We have 3 USB Type-C ports, but these are upstream only, and for data they're not capable of charging. We also have 3 USB Type-A ports, and these are the USB 3.2 Gen 2 super speed slots, and we also have an RJ45 connector right there. There's also a switcher button here to remove the monitor arm if you decide to VESA mount it. You also have quick access to 2 USB ports. There's a Type-C port and a Type-A port, and that's completely retractable. And that comes in handy if you need to charge your phone or plug in a USB drive. You don't have to reach around the back of the monitor. The back of the monitor looks really clean. So this is a matte type of finish, so there's not a lot of reflection going on with light. Now we do have the Dell logo, and that does have a type of reflective surface, which is a really nice touch. You can also see we have this main monitor stem here, and that's where you can route your cables, and then of course quick access to the ports that I showed earlier. And then at the bottom right side of the monitor, when it's facing towards you, that's where we'll find the control joystick and power button. You can find the 8-watt speakers at the very bottom of the monitor on the right and left side. I've cut most of the lights except an overhead light just to show you what the back of the panel looks like when it's not fully illuminated. The top and sides of the monitor contain vents for heat dissipation. The depth of the monitor stand comes in at 9 3/4 inches at the deepest point, so just ensure that your desk has enough space to accommodate this monitor. Here's a size difference between my 32-inch 4K curved monitor and the 43-inch flat panel. Obviously, it's not a true comparison, one's flat, one's curved, but just to give you an idea. The monitor allows for a positive 5-degree tilt forward or a negative 10-degree tilt backward. The monitor is completely fixed and cannot be rotated right or left. You can swivel the monitor right or left by up to 20 degrees. At the maximum height, the monitor sits about 3.5 inches between the bottom of the monitor to the desk, and at the lowest setting, the monitor sits 1.25 inches from the bottom of the monitor to the desk. This leaves around 3 inches to accommodate a soundbar if you plan on using one. By the way guys, if you're finding this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps me out. Back to the video. When you first set up the monitor, it recommends a 300% scale, which is super ginormous. So here's what 100% looks like if you're going to use it there, and here's what 125 and 150 looks like. And I think I could probably live in the 150 range, but here's another example of what 200 would look like, and then back to 150. Here's an example of a pitch black screen, and you can see that it doesn't achieve, you know, pure blacks or true black. It's kind of like a dark gray, so it's a bit faded or washed out in dark scenes. When looking at a white screen, you can see that the brightness is pretty uniform, but if you look at the right and left sides, there seems to be a little bit of vertical vignetting. If you're looking at a dark scene, this is what it looks like when there's a light source in front of the monitor screen, and I'm about 3 to 4 feet away for reference. Here's how the screen performs when there is a light source in front of it. The viewing angles are actually pretty good, so you can see as I go to the side, I'm still seeing a lot of the image. While consuming media such as YouTube, movie trailers, Netflix, I found the display to be a bit lacking, so there's nothing really noteworthy about it. Sure, it gets bright enough, sure there's enough clarity when you're watching 4K videos, but there's nothing really stellar or standout. And part of the reason why is there is no HDR support on this monitor. So a lot of the images or media that I'm consuming, it just lacks, you know, that type of vibrancy or punch that I'm used to seeing on monitors and TVs that do have HDR support. The clarity is acceptable, but at 103 ppi on this size of a monitor, is definitely noticeable if you're coming from a monitor with a higher PPI. So that's something to keep in mind, that this does not excel in clarity. Here's a reason why you may want a 43-inch monitor. So you could see that I have this screen divided into 4 sections. So it's like getting 4 full HD screens, and they're about 21 inches diagonally. So I have one laptop here, another laptop here, my desktop, and my PlayStation 5, and you can see that I could go through any of these screens, you know, independently and go ahead and use them. So if you're managing multiple devices at one time, or you need to keep track of a lot of screens at once, this is an excellent option for that. And it's all plug and play. I've just plugged everything into the back of the monitor and set the inputs, and it worked like a charm. If you'll be connecting multiple devices to the monitor, you're probably not going to want to be using the keyboard or trackpad on each laptop or desktop. And thankfully, you can use one pair of keyboard and mouse to control all your devices with the KVM feature. So you can see right now I'm on my desktop, and I can go ahead and navigate around, you know, with the keyboard and mouse. What I can also do is I can go into the menu, switch the input source to, say, my laptop. And when that screen loads up, you can see that with the same keyboard and mouse, I can also go ahead and interact with the computer. And I can also go to my other laptop here. So let's just go right there, let that come up, and you can see again, I'm interacting with this laptop as well. So really you have a lot of functionality, and you can have up to 4 devices set up with KVM. If you're looking for something more traditional like picture-in-picture or picture-by-picture, you have 2 ways to do this. So the traditional way is just to go into the menu setting and go ahead and pick your type of layout, and you can see you could switch the position of that, the size, and so on. However, there's something easier, which is to download an app called Dell Display Manager. And this is what the app looks like when you first open it up, and you can see that I can just go ahead and change the brightness with the sliders here, which is much more convenient than going into the menu. As well, I can go ahead and change the contrast as well. Where we're interested in is Input Manager. So in Input Manager, we do have a KVM wizard if you don't want to do that through the menu. But more importantly, we do have this picture-in-picture and picture-by-picture mode. So if I go ahead and click that, you can see I can actually click this icon, make my picture-in-picture window much larger if I like, and I can just go back and make it smaller. As well, I can cycle through the 4 corners of the screen, and I can also choose to do picture by picture instead of picture in picture. So let's go ahead and click that. Now, one thing to note is that you can see it took a bit, and now everything's set up, and it does take the Dell Display Manager a little bit of time for it to communicate back with the monitor. If you need to swap the screens while you're in picture mode, say something important comes up, that's very easy. You could just hit the video swap button right there, and you could see that the displays have been switched. That way, if you get something important come through, you can easily maximize that screen and attend to it. If you're only planning on connecting a desktop or a laptop to the monitor, but you still want to maximize the desktop space, that's very easy to do. You could see if I mouse over on the minimize icon here, I have a bunch of different window presets or window layouts. So I can go ahead and click this one, for example, have a narrow screen on the right side and a narrow screen on the left side. But what if you want something a bit more custom or unique? Well, that's where you could use Dell's Display Manager. So I'm just going to open it up. And again, this is software that doesn't come with the computer. You have to install it. You could download it from Dell's site. I'm going to click more options, and you can see that there's really a ton of really custom looking window layouts. And there's even more, really extravagant ones where you could have 12 different type of compartments. You could also make your own and save them as well. But I'm going to go for something like this. So if I click it, you can see it segmented the screen into these different zones, and to take advantage of that, I would just drag each window into the zone that I want and let it snap. So there's that one. I'll move this one into the top there. Let's move Edge into this middle one here. And then finally, I'll move this Logitech window into the bottom here, and you can see that, it snaps really beautifully. Now, what you can also do is if at any time you change your mind and you want one of these wider, you can just have it overlay over any of the existing screens, and then you could just move it back if you like. And if you want to go full screen, you can just do that and everything's back to normal. Now, if at any time you want to cancel any of this, again, you would just go into Dell's Display Manager and then just click X, and then it's going to remove those zones. If you're going to be using this monitor for any type of video editing or content creation, it really does make life much easier. You can see that I have access to all my assets right there. I have a really big preview of the video. I can easily go through the timeline without needing to scroll a lot, and I have all my settings in place. If you're going to be using Photoshop, you can see you have a really large canvas space, so that's going to be awesome for zooming in and zooming out while you edit photos. This monitor definitely isn't for gamers with a 5-millisecond response time. However, you can see that I was able to play Battlefield without any real issue, but if you're going to be playing something a bit more fast-paced and requires fast reaction times, you're definitely going to notice it. So I would stay away from gaming and just use it as a backup. I've set the monitor volume to 100% and my PC volume is at 30%. So here's what that sounds like. While the 8-watt speakers get loud enough to fill out a room, it is lacking treble and there's a little bit of bass, but as soon as you start cranking the volume up really high, there's a lot of distortion as well. The Dell U4323QE is a 42.5-inch diagonal IPS panel with a 16:9 aspect ratio. The resolution is true 4K 3840 by 2160 at 60 Hz and a PPI of 103.6. The max brightness is 350 nits and the contrast ratio is 1000 to 1. 100% coverage of Rec 709 and sRGB and 98% of DCI-P3. Response time is 5 milliseconds gray to gray fast. Two 8-watt speakers are located on the left and right side of the panel. There's up to 90 watts of power delivery. So would I recommend this monitor? And I would only recommend it to a certain type of user or use case. So if you value productivity, flexibility, and efficiency the most, definitely this is going to get you there. That large of a screen comes in super clutch when you're video editing, working on photos, if you have to have multiple documents open, if you need to cross-reference a lot of files. It's excellent for that. You can connect multiple devices, and then you could have the KVM feature, you could charge your laptop, you have a ton of ports. There is really a lot that you could do with this monitor, as long as you don't care about, the sharpest image, because at 103 PPI, there is clarity there because it's a 4K monitor, but given the size, 103 feels a little too small. If this was my first monitor, I'd probably be pretty happy with it. There's nothing super stellar about it in terms of image quality. And when I'm looking at dark scenes, it's okay, a little bit faded or washed out. And that's because I'm comparing it coming from a monitor with HDR. And again, the clarity issue, at 103 PPI versus 139 on my other monitor. If that's not really a concern to you and you just really care about having maximum screen real estate and the ability to split the window, create custom layouts, then this is definitely an awesome option. If you're wondering if a 43-inch monitor is too big for your setup, it really is going to be dependent on your desk. So this comes in at 9 3/4 inches deep. So if you put this right up against a wall, make sure your desk is deep enough so that, you know, when you sit at the edge of your desk, you're not having to crane your neck, you know, right and left to take a look at everything on there. So I'm gonna leave some links in the description down below. You can check this monitor out, but let me know what you guys think. You know, do you think 43 is too large? Is this fine? Are you interested in picking this up? I think I'm gonna give it a couple more days, but I'm leaning towards probably going back to my 32-inch curve just for that clarity in HDR. And as always, if you found this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing. It really does help me out a lot, guys, and I'll see you in the next one soon.